Hello, the Netherlands, and welcome to Sustainable Brand Index 2025. It's great to be with you to present the official results of Sustainable Brand Index in the Netherlands for this year. My name is Eric. I am the founder of Sustainable Brand Index. I actually started the study 15 years ago, so this is actually a 15th anniversary for the study. Of course, we entered the Netherlands in 2017, so a bit shorter time there, but still a lot of data, a lot of insights to dig through, which we're very excited about. Today, I'm going to walk you through some key insights from the Dutch market, of course. I'm going to compare a bit to the other markets where we're active to give you some context. After that, we're going to look at the consumer groups, the behavior of consumers in the Netherlands and how those have evolved over the past year and also the longer perspective. We're going to look at sustainability communication and how consumers view that, greenwashing, of course. Don't want to miss that one. And then last but not least, we are going to walk you through the ranking in Sustainable Brand Index 2025 and release the industry winners, the top climbers, and of course the top 10 and the number one, the most sustainable brand in the Netherlands 2025 according to Dutch consumers. Let's go. Before we get into the key insights for the Dutch market, of course, we do have to go through a bit of the what and the how of Sustainable Brand Index. Very important. And to do that, I'm actually going to practice some circular behavior today. I'm going to recycle myself from last year. You're going to listen to me from 2024, going through the what and the how of Sustainable Brand Index. And this is, we save energy, so circularity for the win. Okay, Eric, 2024, take it away.
We have been doing this for a long time now. We started out in Sweden back in 2011. Then 2 years later, we went into the Norwegian market, the Danish market, and the Finnish market. In 2017, we expanded into the Netherlands as well. And then since 2020, we're also in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So all in all, 8 markets today. Sustainable Brand Index is today Europe's largest independent brand study on sustainability. We're very proud of that. And every year, we interview more than 80,000 respondents about how they perceive more than 1,600 brands in these markets. So, how do we do it? How do we perform Sustainable Brand Index? That's a very good question. Let me walk you through the 4 stages of it. Number 1, desk research. We put a massive amount of time every year into looking around us, basically. What is happening in the market? What are key developments that we see? Economy, politics, social trends, etc. And of course, what are the sustainability topics that we see emerging among consumers and in society in general? So this is a lot of work just looking around us and gathering that. And this is super important input that goes into the web surveys that we perform in the later stages. Stage number 2, web survey number 1. This is where we take all the insights and the results from the desk research stage and we put into a web survey where we want to interview consumers. We work with Norstat as our main supplier of consumer respondents. We access their panels and we ask our questions, basically. And web survey number 1 is very much about 2 things. It's brand assessments. What do people think about the brands from a sustainability perspective? And also some overarching consumer indicators regarding sustainability attitudes and sustainability behaviors. Stage number 3, web survey number 2. Having done web survey number 1, we collect the data, we look at it, we analyze it, and we see, maybe there are things here we want to examine further. If so, we put that into web survey number 2. On top of that, we also look at the in-depth perspective for each brand. So we analyze, or rather we interview consumers about between 25 to 30 different areas for the brand. What are the key drivers behind the perception of the specific brand when it comes to sustainability? Stage number 4, last but not least, turning data into insights. This is really the most important part, according to me. This is where we take the data from Web Survey 1 and Web Survey 2 and of course combine it with 14 years of having performed Sustainable Brand Index. So the amount of data is vast, and now we have to make sense of it, and this is what we do. And one part of that is really generating insights that we're going to share today in this webinar, and the other part is really tailored insights relevant for the brands on the list that we provide to them.
Super, thank you so much, Eric. Looking a bit pale, but otherwise steady performance, I would say. All right, without further ado, let's dig into the first part of this webinar about the key insights for the Dutch market. And this first one is very interesting, actually, I think. I've also added, as you can see here, the other Nordic countries to compare a bit, because what we're seeing over time when it comes to sustainability interest among consumers in the Nordics, in the Netherlands, is that it's very stable over the past few years. So what I'm looking at here, or what you're looking at here rather, is the interest in sustainability or the discussions about sustainability. So the share of Dutch consumers and the other populations talking and discussing sustainability with friends, family, acquaintances, and so on. So we've looked at this from the very beginning of the study, which gives us a long perspective of it. And what is interesting is that if you look at the first few years, so for the other Nordic markets, 2013 to 2020, and in the Dutch perspective, 2017 to 2020, we can see that it was quite volatile and quite, fluctuating a lot. So the interest went up and down a bit depending on what happened in the world. So if we look at the Nordics, we can see that, the Paris climate meeting in December 2015 really spiked the numbers for 16. Then we had Donald Trump coming in for the first term of presidency in 17 and the year after that as well. So you can see a bit lower, a bit less focus on sustainability in general. Then we had the kind of a wave of activism, as you might remember, Greta Thunberg, which we Swedes love to talk about. So it went up a lot, high levels there. And then the pandemic came along, pushing it down a bit. So, and for the Dutch market, as you can see, slightly shorter perspective, but still going up and down depending on the big macro topics in the world. What's happening now over the past few years, 21 to 25, so the past 5 years, if we look at the study, is that it's much more stable. So the average fluctuation between 13 and 20 that I just talked about was actually 24 percentage points for these countries, a bit less in the Netherlands, given that it's a shorter time period. And if you look at the past 5 years, the 2021 to 2025, it's actually zero. So you can see that sustainability discussions and sustainability interest is very stable. It's integrated, and I would like to say that this is the new normal. This is now what people expect from companies, brands, and other stakeholders. And despite a lot of happenings in the world, we cannot say that it has been calmer on the global stage over these past years, because obviously the war in Ukraine, the economy being much worse than before, the second term now of Donald Trump and the start that he has done there. So there's a lot of things happening, but sustainability it's integrated and it's the new normal, and that's really the new face of sustainability and the sustainable transformation. I think we should be very happy about that. So what do people talk about? Well, that's a very good question that I'm going to answer now. If you look to my right here, you can see that we have the key topics among Dutch consumers, and walking you through them a bit, I've color coded them so you can see the orange ones are a bit more, what should I say, maybe global, macro, perspective of the topics, whereas we have the blue ones, a bit more societal and governance locally, and then we have the green ones, obviously connected to the environment and the climate change and so on. I mean, as you can see, war and conflicts number one. That's no surprise there. It's the same for all the countries where we performed the study. So no news, nothing to be very shocked about. However, climate change, 50%. That's high. That's actually higher than the other countries. We have 48% in Sweden. So this is just a bit higher as well. So a lot of focus on the climate topic among Dutch consumers. We also have public health and well-being strong there in the Dutch market, stronger than in the other countries, a bit similar to Denmark actually. What do we have more? We have energy efficiency, we have circular economy, a lot of topics around the environment, obviously, and of course the economy coming in as kind of a single one there, but definitely on the minds of many people due to the state of the economy over the past few years, and definitely at the moment as well. So a bit of a mix, as you can see, I would say, and you can also check this out afterwards when you download the official report. You obviously will. You can compare a bit between the countries, and you can play around with the data in the official report, because it's actually digital this year instead of a traditional PDF. So evolution. All right, let's move on. Now, what do we have here? Well, those of you who have listened to me before, you know these are our behavior groups that we look at over time. We followed them since 2013 in the other countries and 2017 in the Netherlands. And basically, they're based on an observational study where we looked at how people behaved in different environments. And then we interviewed them to identify characteristics and traits. And these characteristics and traits are what we have followed over time, then, to track the development and see how the groups grow or shrink in size, basically. So starting from the left here, we have the ego. As you might guess from the name, not too into sustainability, a lot of focus on what's in it for me, or that's the sole focus, basically. A lot of focus on price, functionality. That's the key topics for them, and also focusing on what's happening around me, like my immediate environment, I would say. So there are definitely topics within sustainability that are connected to this group and very important for this group, like a living countryside, the farmers, the land, so to speak, but also domestic production and labor conditions in the Netherlands and so on. So definitely a lot of topics that we would definitely call sustainability. However, they don't like that term, and they're actually kind of allergic to it, so wouldn't frame it like that. Next one, the moderate group, as you might guess, a big one. Basically, the average consumer, if I may call it so. But I think the key trait here is definitely the fact that this is the follower group. This is a group that they do not drive change themselves. They look at others, and when others start to change and maybe act sustainably, they tend to follow as well. And then the smart group, now we're getting into the more progressives. So smart group, as it sounds, smart, they can balance what's in it for me and what's in it for the world, the climate, whatever they might prioritize. They are very into climate change. That has actually grown a lot in their interest over the past just 4 or 5 years. But they can make the equation work, basically, hence the name smart that we have put there. Also very into quality service, so the value is super important still. You definitely have to have the balance. And last and least, in terms of size, the dedicated group, which is basically the people that prioritize sustainability no matter what. They're very well read, they're informed, they research a lot, they also spread their opinions on social media and are very active around sustainability. So maybe not a huge customer potential, but definitely a group that you need to have control and not get against you, because they are very, very active. So looking at the Ego Group to begin with, this is the development from 16% back in 2017 when we started, and then it was quite flat, as you can see, very neutral development between 17 and 23, so more or less 16%, the average. And then we had a rise last year, and now we're up to 24%, as you can see. So it's actually an all-time high for the Ego Group. It is a smaller group in the Netherlands than it is in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland. So it's still a smaller group, but the trend is the same. It is going up, and this is due to the economy and the fact that the people are some people, I should say, are less inclined to act sustainably because they just don't have the money. We will continue and get back to this particular topic, but this is nothing to be, I would say, too worried about. It's very much the same trend in all the countries. The moderate group, I mean, this is a fairly stable group, or very stable, I would say. As you can see, the long term here between 2017 and 2025 is 46% to 48%, so very stable. I mean, yes, we did have a dip and low point in 2023, but now we're back more or less at that level. So I mean, this is kind of a transit group. I mean, either you go from being ego to moderate and then continue to smart in good times, or you do the opposite. So you go from smart to moderate and then back there. So depending on the year, it can vary a bit, as it did in 2023. But otherwise, the big group, obviously the biggest group by far compared to the others. All right, let's look at the smart group, the one we all want to belong to. I think many of you do. I mean, you're watching this. So basically, over time, you can see between 2017 and 2023, same as some of the other groups, very stable, same size, big size. This is actually the biggest in all our markets. So the smart group in the Netherlands is bigger than it is in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, for example. So this is really, really good to know as well. However, we do see the same development as in the other countries these past few years. It's going down. So now we're down to 22% from the 28 where we were a few years back. Just so this is, I mean, this is slightly unfortunate because again, this is a progressive group focusing on sustainability as well. So the reason for this is not that the values have gone, but rather the wallet is thinner and it's tougher for them to act on their values. Also, I would say one other thing is that it's confusion. These people that are interested, but not maybe, so that much into knowing details and specifics, they find it confusing to know what is sustainable, what isn't sustainable, what brand can I trust and what can't I trust. So this is also a challenge, that they're confused by all the communication. And the dedicated group, as you can see, this is kind of dramatic, I would say. Big group in the Netherlands relative to the other countries as well. It was started out at 9% and then had an all-time high in 2023 at 17%, which is, it's a big for this kind of very sustainability oriented group. And then we've seen this decline as well in this group. I mean, relatively speaking, a very, very steep decline, and now we're down to 6%. Again, this is similar to the other Nordic countries. Not we have never been at 17% in the Nordics. There was 13%, was like the top score or top size for this group, but still the same development. And this is not about the values disappearing or people saying, I don't care about sustainability anymore. It's about the wallet disappearing and the wallet being much thinner. So not finding a way to act upon the values and the way they want to behave. So the attitude is still there, it's still important, but they don't have the ability due to a much tougher economy over the past few years. Okay, so now you're sitting there wondering, of course, what does this mean for me? How do I, what do I make of this information? So here's just an example. Let's say we are an energy company trying to sell a device that saves energy, basically. So if we look at the different groups here, how would we approach them in communication? Well, from the top, ego cuts your electricity costs while keeping performance high. 100% focus on cutting costs and functionality, so price and functionality. Yeah, performance is high, price is low. Fantastic. We don't even mention sustainability. The moderate group, the green one, smart choices that keeps your bills low without compromising comfort. So, you know, definitely key focus is still on keeping the bills low and saving money. Bit more of a maybe warmer side to this one because they are much more into convenience, but also family and those kind of values. So without compromising comfort, because that is important. So a bit more of that, not too much sustainability, to be honest. Then we're getting into the smart one. Cutting waste means cutting costs, better for your wallet and the world. And here we're definitely into this balance that I mentioned before. So, you know, what's in it for them? Super important. Don't take that away. But of course, you know, yes, also good for the world in this case. And then the dedicated efficiency isn't just about saving energy, it's about doing things right. And this is, I mean, much more focused maybe on values and the way, like, okay, I feel this is a company that has the same set of values that I do, so to speak. So, you know, do the things, do the right things, basically. So this is just a very simple exercise to give you an idea of, okay, how do we address and approach these different groups. Moving into sustainability communication, which is, of course, everything we talk about more or less, but also in this case, the consumer view of sustainability communication. So first out, the attitude to sustainability communication from companies in general as a phenomenon, so to speak. What do people think about the fact that companies talk about sustainability? And as you can see, this is a very clear trend over the past few years, going from 39% of positives back in 23 to 53 last year, and now another bit of an increase to 56%. And also the negative ones have gone down, as you can see, quite drastically. So in general, there is a big portion of the Dutch population saying, I think it's good that companies talk about sustainability. And why is that, you wonder? Good question. Because I have the answer. First out, these are quite, I mean, I would say fairly obvious answers, to be honest. But you know, for sustainability is about our future, so companies must take responsibility, and then talking about this is one aspect of it. I think that's important. So that's the top one. Sustainability communication can inspire positive change in society, and I think personally, I think this is maybe the key one, because I definitely see communication as a driver for change and sustainable transformation. So it's good to see that consumers have a similar perception of it, and the positive force that it can be. And then you have some people also saying, you know, it's good to know how they work, even if it doesn't affect me and what I buy and don't buy. But then, of course, also some saying, third saying, I want to know what companies do, because then it'll help me, you know, choose the right brands, basically. And there, the situation and the picture is a bit different. You can see that it's was actually quite, relatively speaking, high level of trust back in 2023, 40% saying, yes, I do trust when companies talk about sustainability. Now we're down to 22 in fairly short period of time, 22%. And then we also have 36% saying, I actively mistrust when companies communicate sustainability. So, I mean, the trend is quite clear, especially if you look at the negative ones over time. So we do have a, you know, attitude versus trust gap here. Why do people mistrust it, or those who do, why do they? Well, first out, mostly marketing, not real action. So basically greenwashing, that's the key, the main one, the big one. Profit over sustainability communication feels fake. So, you know, companies just want to make money. Basically, companies talk about sustainability to stay politically correct, also quite high. And I think I want to just pause here and summarize these first three, because what is this all about? Well, this is about authenticity. That's the key word here. So basically, where is it coming from that brands and companies talk about sustainability? Is it coming from the right place, making a change, driving a sustainable transformation? Or is it just because, you know, well, people have told them they have to do it, they want to score some points, they just want to make more money? And it's quite obvious that the people mistrusting, it's definitely they're not liking where they feel and think that the communication is coming from, or the reason behind it, basically. So authenticity is a key word. And continuing to another keyword, if you look at the next few ones, hard to trust, difficult to verify, truthfulness, lots of promises, little evidence. Another keyword for those two, I would say, is transparency. Super interesting, because that's another keyword that we've talked about for a long time, and the fact that companies must be transparent, and that a lot of consumers obviously feel that that's not the case. And I think this is very interesting, because people feel it's very hard to verify. And if you connect to the EU Green Claims Directive that is coming in or going to be active in a few years, that's of course one of the big parts of the directive, is that you have to verify the environmental claims that you make. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that will impact this part of the mistrust. Hopefully it'll be one of many actions that will have a positive impact on that. And bit of a more solution oriented, maybe, I'm just throwing problems at you, but here are hopefully some solutions. But just to give you an idea of what people do prefer and what they do like when it comes to brands communicating about sustainability. So first of all, I think it's very interesting to see that fair chunk of the population say that, I want to look it up myself. Don't push it down my throat. Don't, be too active. You just have to have it ready. I will go to the website. I will go wherever I need to when I feel I need the information. I think this is very interesting to just to reflect a bit upon, how much do we push and how much do we pull, basically, in terms of sustainability communication. Second one, I think also very important to learn from, it should relate to the product that I'm buying, because we do see a lot of corporate communication about sustainability for obvious reasons. But it's very clear that at least some consumers feel that, okay, if you're going to talk about sustainability, make it about the product that I'm actually, looking at, or service that I'm looking at. So connected to that. So maybe taking it down a few steps from this corporate brand perspective to the product perspective. And I think that's also key insight from this. And then quite low levels, as you can see, it's a bit of a mix if you want in-depth info or if you don't want info at all, for example. Fun fact, I don't want sustainability info. You can see 15%. It's fairly low number, but it's much, much higher than in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. So interesting. And what people trust the most, and really what is super clear when we look at, when we ask them, what would you then like to see? What would make you trust sustainability communication? Third-party labels. That's the key thing that most consumers get back to, basically. So that is good. And I mean, it's also interesting, again, to connect back to the EU Green Claims Directive, because apart from the verification that I mentioned before, the other big part of the directive, as it is about third-party labels, and the fact that there are so many in the EU, and that we need to create a better system for that, and not add a lot of new ones, and actually build upon the ones that we have, and they should also be a bit more common from EU in general. So I think looking at that regulation when it's coming, I think it's going to be interesting to see how, and hopefully that it can create a more solid foundation for the third-party labels and certifications that we have and will have. All right, people of the Netherlands. Sounded a bit like Kennedy there. Sorry. But anyway, people of the Netherlands, what are we going to do now? Well, we're going to get into the ranking. And of course, I'm going to drag it out a bit, because first of all, you need to have a listen to me again from 2024, explaining a bit how the ranking actually works.
The Sustainable Brand Index ranking score consists of two major areas. We call them environmental responsibility and social responsibility. So these are the key aspects of the ranking score. The definition that we use are the 17 global goals for sustainable development. So for environmental responsibility, we take the environmentally related goals, and that's what we use as a definition when we ask consumers. And same for social responsibility, we take the socially related goals and put them in the definition as for social responsibility.
All right, solid performance, Eric, 2024. Now we got it. Hopefully, if you don't, there's a lot to read on our website, and you can, of course, contact us as well if you want to know the details. But anyway, let's start looking at the average ranking score for the Dutch market in 2025, and of course, the years before that. As you can see, the ranking score has developed naturally over time. The average ranking score, so the average of all the brands in the study this year in the Netherlands, we have 221, if I remember correctly. So you can see that the average ranking score, if you look at 2018 up until 23, we had a very positive development, like nice curve for any statistician to look at. Very nice curve going up. So all-time high in 2023. This is exactly the same as it is in the other Nordic countries as well. So just good for you to provide that context. Was higher there, and then 2024 we had a decline, as you might remember from last year. Huge decline, 20 percentage points. Why is that? Well, basically, not to reiterate last year, but it's good to remind you. First of all, a lot of confusion. Consumers not really understanding what is sustainability, who is sustainable, who isn't. Brands keep saying different things. It's complicated for regular people. So then they take a step back. The other thing is that when we look at the frequency of sustainability communication, we can see that the peak was in 2022. That's when all the brands more or less talked about specifically, net zero, carbon neutral, 2030, those kind of things. We see much less, as you probably all notice these days, about that. So that was really the peak, and then it still spilled over on 23. People had it in their minds, and then memory is short, so it started to fade last year. So that's the key reasons, basically. And now we're continuing this downward slope, and this is unique for the Netherlands this year, because if you look at Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, we see that the development is neutral. It's more or less the same as last year, same state of sustainability perception as last year, whereas in the Netherlands we see that it keeps going down. So a fairly steep decline of 12 percentage points this year as well. So we're continuing on this journey where people are confused, see less communication, but also question a lot. What are brands actually doing in sustainability? All right, from that kind of bit of a lower down point, let's bring it up, because now we're getting into the winners. And first, before we get into the industry winners and the top 10, I want to show you the brands that have climbed the most in Sustainable Brand Index and the Netherlands since last year. Here you have them. The brands that have climbed the most positions on the list. In brackets, you can see the number of positions. So, for example, the car brand Kia, 79 spots up since last year. Very good. Well driven. We have KLM, the airline, obviously, 67 spots. So that's a very strong performance this year. Subway, ABN AMRO, MediaMarkt. Airbnb, Zalando, Skoda. Well, you can read for yourselves, obviously. I think I can just say that congratulations to these brands, increasing a lot this year in the ranking for different reasons. I also want to emphasize that there's big difference, or rather a big mix of brands. There are energy companies, there are electronic companies, there are consumer goods, there are all kinds of cars, banks, etc. So definitely kind of a mix, but these are the brands that have climbed the most. Moving from the climbers to the winners, the industry winners, the brands that Dutch consumers perceive to be most sustainable in each respective industry. Here we have them. They're coming for you here. We have KLM not only climbing a lot, but also actually keeping the win and the lead in their industry, the airlines. I'm not going to walk you through all of them. You can see for yourselves, but I definitely want to take some examples, specifically the new ones. So we have Volvo taking over from Tesla in automotive cars. That's fairly obvious, but also I don't see Tesla coming back for that position in a while. We have Veleda taking the lead in beauty. We have Zeeman taking the lead in clothes and fashion, so good job. We have Apple taking over in digital from Google. Then we have, let's see, Hobby and Leisure, Dille, Camille, new winner there. Congratulations. In hotels, we also have a new winner. We have Van der Valk. Sorry about the pronunciations, guys. I'm doing my best. Then we have in mobility ANWB coming back in the lead there. Yeah, I think that was it in terms of new ones. But all the brands, you know, leaders in their industries, congratulations, well done, and keep up the good work. Okay, let's straighten our backs, and we're down to the top 10 in Sustainable Brand Index 2025, the Netherlands. Let's go, a countdown, classic one. At number 10, we find this year Marktplaats. Well done by Marktplaats. Again, I'm, apologizing for my pronunciation. Climbing 6 positions, so entering the top 10 this year. So that's a very strong performance. Good job. Congratulations. At number 9 this year, we find the vegetarian butcher, the Vegetarische Slager. Great job as always, dropping though a bit since last year, 6 spots down. So definitely been in the top 2 or top 3 basically since we added them to the list. A bit tougher this year, but still top 10. Great job. And at number 8 we find ANWB. Coming in at number 8, you remember they were also industry winner, and coming in at number 8, climbing 3 spots since last year, so entering the top 10 again. At number 7, we have Dille & Camille coming in, industry winner as you remember, and also number 7 this year, climbing 3 positions from 10 last year to 7 this year. Congratulations. And at number 6, we have an old acquaintance as well. We have Green Choice. Green Choice Energy Company coming in at number 6. They were number 5 last year, but still a solid performance this year. Good job. Number 5, we find Zonatura. Zonatura is number 5, climbing 2 positions since last year. 7 last year, 5 this year. Great job. Number 4 this year is the same as last year actually, Dopper coming in at number 4. Congratulations, keeping that position in Sustainable Brand Index 2025. And guys, now we're at the podium. The podium, you know what that means. Counting down from 3. Good. Let's see. Number 3 in Sustainable Brand Index 2025 is IKEA. IKEA, of course, it warms my heart as a Swede. Well done. Same position as last year, so always a top performer, and that goes also for the other countries. Strong sustainable brand in the eyes of consumers, obviously. Number 2, and now we're down to it. So I think number 2 might, give it away a bit. But number 2 is an old classic, a long-time winner of Sustainable Brand Index, Tony's Chocolonely. So Tony's coming in at number 2 this year, dropping 1 position because that was a last year's winner. So ladies and gentlemen, we do have a new winner this year. You can count on that. Very exciting. But congratulations to Tony's Chocolonely, always performing very strongly in Sustainable Brand Index. And now it's time. Number 1. What brand is the most sustainable brand in the Netherlands 2025? That's the big question. You've seen some of the old winners, the Vegetarian Butcher, we already showed you them, Tony's obviously. So there is a new winner this year. Let's have a look. The most sustainable brand in the Netherlands, according to Dutch Consumers 2025, is Ecoplaza. Ecoplaza coming in at number 1, 2025. Congratulations. Great job by this grocery store chain. Fantastic. Wow, it's always nice with a new winner. Keeps us fresh. Congratulations to Ecoplaza once again. Well done. Newcomer, not this year, but I think we added them last year. So came in strong last year as number second and now taking over the number one. So well done. Hats off. All right. Now we're going to get into the summary a bit. Don't drop off just yet, because I think there's a few things here that I definitely want to emphasize. First of all, I do want to connect back to what I said in the beginning. And, briefly, sustainability is the new normal. And that's fantastic to have achieved that. This is the next phase of sustainability. Even though we face a lot of challenges globally as well as locally, it's good to know that consumers are there. It's integrated. It's stable. They expect it. The very majority of them. So it is the new normal. But of course, still have many challenges. One of them being obviously the next one here, which is you can't sit around and wait for sustainable behaviors to happen. Yeah, people are not all of a sudden going to wake up and say, "Oh, I want to act sustainably every day, all the time." And actually do that. So basically, if you look at the consumer behavior groups as we did, you can see that we are more or less a bit back to basics, back to where we started. And that's the same for all the countries. So you have to adapt to that. We're not going to see an explosion of dedicated or smart. That's not going to happen. People are the way they are, basically. And I think I know that you need to adapt to that and see how can we cater to that, not wait for them. Same with ego. Ego definitely, yeah, it's gone up a bit, but it's not going to explode just because we have a new president in some country or so on. So we have to face the fact that people are the way they are, even though it sounds a bit, tough. Be clear with the value. Another thing that I think I tried to convey when we looked at the different groups as well, and communication, that it has to be super clear. What's the value? Why is this good for me? The balance there, and also the overweight on the value rather than so more of the egoism than the altruism in the communication. And last but not least, because this is one thing that I do want to share with you more from an internal perspective, I started Sustainable Brand Index back in 2011, 15 years ago. And when I reached out to companies back then and asked them about it and said, hey, we're going to do this, you want to get involved, are you interested? There were so many brands and companies saying, why? Why would we do that? It's not relevant. Why is it, something we should care about? Why is it something we should engage in? And I can tell you, I never get that question these days. Now it's all about what can we do, how can we do it, and how fast can we do it. So there's been a big shift in the minds and of leaders and in the company approach to this. And I think that's very encouraging in these time and day when we have other challenges to face as well. So that's a good thing. Many of you work with us already, getting tailored insights about your brand, your industry, consumers, and so on. If you don't, please reach out. Let us know if you're interested. We have different types of reports, from a bit lighter report, the data report, to the more heavy strategy report, but also the perception versus performance, where we compare how you're perceived in Sustainable Brand Index with how you're actually performing based on your own reporting. So that's a very interesting gap analysis. Without much more to say, it's out. You can now go to the website, this link, and get the official report from Sustainable Brand Index 2025, the Netherlands. You can also play around a bit. It's interactive. You can also compare with the other countries. Once you've accessed the Dutch one, you can look at Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and so on. So have fun and get going. Don't sit around here waiting. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me today.